It's men like you who have made me the way I am. And if you loved me at all, you'd feel sorry for the terrible troubles I've been through.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 dark truths about Marilyn Monroe.
Being a sex symbol is a heavy load to carry, especially when one is tired, hurt, and bewildered.
For this list, we'll be looking at some of the most tragic and lesser-known facts about the late Hollywood actress. What did you find the most shocking? Let us know in the comments. Number 10, she was fired from her last film. In April 1962, production began on George Cukor's Something's Got to Give, starring Dean Martin and Marilyn Monroe. However, the actress missed the first day, and many others, due to a chronic sinus infection and a slew of flu-like symptoms. Walter Bernstein's script was being rewritten, and they were behind schedule and over budget, which led some of the crew and higher-ups to put blame on the production's lead actress.
Don't pay any attention to her. She's crazy. Are you going to stay long?
I don't know yet. Would you like me to?
Monroe's last day on set was on June 1st, her 36th birthday. After calling in sick days later, she was fired for spectacular absenteeism and sued for damages in a $750,000 lawsuit.
She seemed healthy. All this talk that she had these colds and things, I never saw any evidence of it.
But after Dean Martin refused to do the film without her, she was rehired.
Satisfied?
Completely.
Production was set to begin in October. Sadly, Monroe died in August. Number 9, she got married at 16. In January 1942, Norma Jean Mortensen began dating 20-year-old James Doherty. By then, her living situation had changed very often. When she wasn't at an orphanage, she stayed with family friends, or foster families.
When is Mother coming back?
Mother's not going to be home for a long time, honey. She's sick.
In her teen years, she stayed with Grace Goddard, a friend of her mum's who became her legal guardian in 1936. But when the Goddards planned to move to West Virginia, Norma couldn't go with them. To avoid going back into foster care, she married James on June 19th, 1942, shortly after she turned 16.
It was great. She was a wonderful wife. She was a good cook. She was an immaculate housekeeper. And she enjoyed being married.
Though not the most romantic of circumstances, the young couple were seemingly in love, at least at the very beginning.
Her husband disapproved of her newly found modeling career and the marriage broke down.
By 1946, life had taken them in different directions and the couple called it quits. Number 8, her looks overshadowed her intellect. Marilyn Monroe was and still is considered one of the most beautiful women in the world, and while that certainly helped her in Hollywood, it also hindered her options and control. The industry didn't view her as a serious actress, let alone an intelligent person.
Say, they told me you were stupid. You don't sound stupid to me.
I can be smart when it's important, but most men don't like it.
But Monroe was a voracious reader, reportedly owning more than 400 books in her personal library. She also loved writing and studying her craft.
When you go for the kind of acting that Marilyn went for, which we would call the method, you do an inordinate amount of internal examination.
In 1955, she added businesswoman to her attributes when she established her own company, Marilyn Monroe Productions. 20th Century Fox sued the actress for allegedly breaching her contract. She ultimately won the legal battle and gained more agency over her roles and production elements, not to mention a higher salary of $100,000.
Well, cheer up. I will. I just hate to fight with anybody. When you win, you lose.
Number 7, tumultuous marriages and high-profile divorces. Monroe and retired New York Yankees baseball star Joe DiMaggio eloped on January 14, 1954. Their 9-month marriage was troubled due to his jealousy and alleged abuse, as well as her increasing popularity, especially after her infamous Subway Grate scene. However, they stayed friends. Monroe briefly took a break from Hollywood after she married playwright Arthur Miller in June 1956.
He gave her a ring inscribed, "Now is forever." Marilyn wrote on the back of one of the wedding photographs, "Hope, hope, hope."
Despite gushing about their love for each other in the press, the marriage didn't last. Monroe was heartbroken after she found a note written by her husband stating he was embarrassed and disappointed with her.
How he thought I was some kind of angel, but now he guessed he was wrong. He'd married a woman as flawed as his previous wife had been.
Their relationship was rocky before and during filming The Misfits in 1961, Miller's screenplay, which was not so subtly about Monroe.
I bless you, girl.
They divorced before it premiered that year. Number 6, she spent her childhood in foster care.
I was never used to being happy. So that wasn't something I was sort of counting on.
On June 1st, 1926, Gladys Pearl Baker gave birth to her third child, Norma Jean, in Los Angeles, California. From as young as 2 weeks old, Norma was in and out of foster care and orphanages, briefly living with her mother on occasion until Gladys was admitted to a psychiatric hospital.
At the age of 9, Norma Jean was again placed in foster care. Her adolescence was spent in the rural farmland communities of the San Fernando Valley, just north of Los Angeles.
Norma had a photo of the man Gladys said was her father, but never met him, not even as Marilyn Monroe. In 2022, analysis used her hair for DNA testing and identified her father as Charles Stanley Gifford, a man Gladys had an affair with when she was a film cutter for RKO.
Now DNA tests proved, yes, he did father the biggest movie sex symbol of all time.
Number 5, her battle with mental health.
What makes you so sad? I think you're the saddest girl I ever met.
The first man ever said that. I'm usually told how happy I am.
That's because you make a man feel happy.
Marilyn Monroe was subjected to multiple instances of sexual abuse throughout her years as a ward of the state, causing her to develop a stutter at a young age that made her insecure.
She got depressed at times about how terrible she felt about herself.
Right.
Nothing will turn out right. Nothing will go my way.
She carried that trauma throughout her life and suffered crippling anxiety, insomnia, depression, and a substance misuse disorder that ultimately led to her death. Monroe also struggled with intense stage fright. The actress earned a reputation for being difficult to work with on and off camera, reportedly displaying erratic behaviour, often forgetting her lines, and showing up late or not at all.
She often needed to bolster her confidence before appearing on set, which led to keeping her co-stars waiting for several hours, and many considered her unprofessional.
1961 was a particularly exhausting year for Monroe, as she was hospitalised for depression and ailed by physical health problems.
Because of her delicate mental and physical conditions, Marilyn did not work as an actress at all in 1961.
Number 4, her struggles with childbearing. Marilyn Monroe desperately wanted to have children.
If you gave her a choice between children and stardom, it would have been children. Without question.
But after she married Arthur Miller in 1956, she reportedly suffered 3 miscarriages in 3 years. The first was a few months after they were wed that year. She lost an ectopic pregnancy in 1957, the year she filmed The Prince and the Showgirl.
Her unpleasant behavior and her increasing dependency on her husband strained their marriage considerably.
In December 1958, she had another miscarriage after making Some Like It Hot. Monroe's struggles with infertility had been attributed to her suffering from debilitating endometriosis, a painful gynecological condition in which tissue develops outside the uterus in areas such as the ovaries.
It seemed to me that the crises that are supposed to have occurred seem to have occurred because of her miscarriages. Am I on the wrong track with that?
Everything connects in a person's life, particularly hers.
While Monroe underwent treatment, possibly more than one surgery, endometriosis was and still is incurable. Number 3, relationships with the Kennedys.
She was told directly never to call or contact again.
To Rob not to talk to Robert anymore.
Robert or John.
While Miss Monroe had relationships with high-profile celebrities like Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra, the most scandalous is her alleged affair with President John F. Kennedy. Rumours only increased after she famously sang Happy Birthday, Mr. President at his New York birthday celebration on May 19th, 1962.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
Monroe allegedly got involved with his brother Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, with close friends stating that she openly talked about her love for Bobby. Multiple people believe the young Kennedy visited her shortly before her death and was the last person to see the star alive. More on that soon.
Yeah, I had heard on good authority that the Saturday that this happened, Bobby had come into town. Bobby was in town and supposedly left. And when I say I heard it from a federal agent.
Number 2, the FBI suspected Monroe of communism.
Marilyn Monroe, SMC, for security matter, communist.
The FBI began closely monitoring Marilyn Monroe in 1955 when she began dating Arthur Miller, who was being investigated for ties to the Communist Party. They noted her interactions with known members, as well as her own progressive political views. Monroe also publicly backed up her husband, and though he admitted that he supported some communist protests and causes in the 1940s, Miller continued to deny being an actual member. Even though he and Monroe split in 1961, the FBI maintained their file on her, which they'd add to when she became involved with the Kennedys.
During the trip to Mexico, Marilyn spent time with friends, known American communists and left-wingers. They'd been kicked out of America. She told one of them, Fred Vanderbilt Field, of a talk she'd had with Bobby Kennedy about politics.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, the mystery surrounding her death.
I find varying accounts that she was really on the downward path.
Oh, I thought she very definitely was on the downward path.
On August 5th, 1962, 36-year-old Marilyn Monroe was found deceased in her bed at her home in Brentwood, California.
For Norma Jean Baker, the orphaned girl with dreams of stardom, life was a tortured path of broken promises and bitter realities. But for Marilyn Monroe, the incandescent star whose image blazed across the silver screen, dreams became reality.
Her cause of death was the ingestion of a fatal amount of prescription barbiturates. Decades later, it's still debated whether this was an accidental overdose or an intentional choice to end her life.
But it's the rumors of government conspiracy and foul play that have kept interest in Monroe's death alive for over 40 years.
Some have gone as far to theorize that she was murdered and it was covered up by the CIA or FBI. Author Anthony Summers investigated the popular conspiracy theory that her demise can be connected to the Kennedys, alleging that Robert was indeed in her home the night she died.
That both of them had said to her, that's the end of it.
No, Jack didn't contact her.
Yeah.
Bob did.
I see.
And that's what killed her.